Good morning and welcome back to the Explicit Measures podcast with Tommy and Mike. Good morning, everyone.
It's another day, another Tuesday or Thursday or whatever day it is at this point. Work just becomes a thing, man.
This is a pre-recorded episode, so we're pre-recording this one. So this one, for those of you who are subscribers, you can get these early episodes if you want, but by checking out and becoming a member. We post them as soon as they're recorded, and they go right on the YouTube channel, just in case you want to look at them. Yeah, that's going to be today's episode. Today's episode's main topic is going to be data agents and semantic models. I've been doing a lot of workshops around creating a data agent, working with data agents, figuring out what data sources can be used with data agents. There's been some recent announcements around what data can be consumed inside the data agents. So that being said, we'll jump in there. But before we get to our main topic, I do have a little bit of a story, a beat from the street, as you will. I'd like to just kind of pick your brain, Tommy, here. In your previous history, whatever that may be, working in other companies, working for yourself, where do you feel like Microsoft Dynamics sits? What is that? What is that part of your ecosystem?
It's pretty extensive because most organizations I worked, actually every organization I worked with, Dynamics was one of the vital organs of how the company operated. Like you take that away, and that company just falls apart. And obviously, then can we do some Power BI with it? But honestly, the beginning for me, Mike, at least they were two separate, like church and state type of thing. They were very separated, and we wanted to integrate, but like, well, no, we get what we want in Dynamics because we have my account. Dynamics is more, it's again singular base. I'm looking at a single record and all the information there. But then it came to that point. But no, for me, it's a very aware thing, part of it. So why do you ask?
Interesting. The reason I ask is because as a smaller business, right, I'm a consulting firm and or software development firm, and as I'm, grooming a lot more of the, feature sets and trying to get software sold, I'm growing. I'm getting a lot more customers. I have a lot more people. I mean, I've been doing this. I've been consulting since 2019. Yeah. When you have a handful of customers, you can keep it on your head. Who's what projects they're on. But as your team starts growing to more people and more individuals, you need to start getting a bit more organized. And so I've been, kind of like looking at the landscape and saying, what programs or tools that are out there and what could I use to become part of my process as I develop in my business? And so I've been doing a lot of homework around, okay, what's dynamic sales? What does that look like? How would I build it? All the things that kind of go along with the dynamics round of things. So that's kind of, I'm really going to be heavily kind of investing and starting to install it, build process around it. I've done a couple of very large migrations for companies in the past around, switching different ERP systems or migrating between things. And it feels like a lot of times companies just don't adapt their process to what the program does out of the box. And therefore it becomes really expensive, customizations, all this other kind of stuff. So I'm looking to say, okay, I'm going to be flexible here and I will conform my process to what the program does out of the box. So that way I'm not spending a lot of extra money trying to customize or tweak things. It just works. So I'm just going to pause right there. Yeah. Your thoughts?
No, I mean, for me, to your point, like I'm an individual consultant, so I know Jim's an opportunity. I know it in my head kind of thing. Or exactly. I have a task list or, whatever it may be.
A lot of paper, like,
good,
yes.
Right. Kind of thing. I can manage that. But the organizations I worked with, and again, when I worked internally, when I was a director of BI, when I was a data analyst, it was the accountability, it was the input. Also, interesting you say too about the customization. So I hated building model apps. There's Canvas apps, which to me make more sense, but model apps were so integral because of the amount of mapping and customization, because, well, the sales team works in this method, in this process. So Dynamics, I think the reason why it's so popular, like Mike, I'm speaking at a conference that's Dynamics based.
Yeah, exactly.
You can have that, right?
And when is that?
That's in the October Dynamics Summit in North America. But again, the point is not the speaking part, but the point is it's a whole conference really devoted around Dynamics. And because it's the most popular thing out there outside of like Salesforce, because it adapts and it can be custom for each organization. The problem for you and I from the analytical side, I'll pause there. I don't know if you wanted to kind of take that in a different direction.
No, I just want to give you a big shout out here on like the conference and then where you will be. So That way people, if they want to follow you or they're contemplating going,
Right.
if you are in Dynamics or and you're speaking on some Power BI related things at the Dynamics conference, correct?
Yeah. So we're doing two things. I'm doing metric sets, and then I'm doing adopting and promoting Power BI because a lot of people are going to be introduced to it. So adopting and promoting Microsoft Fabric and Power BI in your organization.
Excellent. So that's the Community Summit in Orlando. That'll be this year, and it's October 19th through the 23rd this year. It's at the Palms Resort, Gaylord Palms Resort and Convention Center down in Orlando, which I think I've never been there to that facility, but I've been to a couple other different Gaylord. I guess hotel. It's like bigger than a hotel. It's like centers. It's massive.
It's one of those convention hotel centers.
So I've heard very good things about the other locations, and I've had a lot of good experiences with them. That'll be exciting. It'll be a lot of fun for you, Tommy. So if you're checking it out, I'll definitely put the link in the description below. It'll be summitna.com if you want to go check it out.
And if I was a golfer, I would say I'd be golfing, but I'm probably not going to be golfing. So
that's true. So I'm going to go back to your point there, Tommy. So I know every company has their own version of a CRM system. I've always felt like Dynamics has just kind of been, in the companies that I've been in, it's been more like SAP. It's been other systems. I've been working a lot more now with like recent companies around like Salesforce. That's another system that does a lot of similar things.
Yeah.
Customer relationship management kind of pieces. So it's interesting to me to just really dive into Dynamics, because at this point, up until now, I knew about Dynamics. I know enough about how to get the data out of Dynamics, but it was like a data source. It was a data source for Power BI. The tables were like, how do I load them in? Yeah. And I've also heard Dynamics reporting is pretty trash. Like, it's just not good at all. It does some reporting. It will give you some graphs that you need. But, when you see that compared to what Power BI can do, people immediately start clamoring for it. I want reports looking like Power BI reports and getting them in from Dynamics.
It's really interesting you say that, because this is actually one of for me, if you were to look at those critical points in your career when you kind of adapted or upgraded your own skill or experience, this was one of them, because the reports were pretty interesting. However, people did not want to switch to Power BI. They didn't want that data in Power BI because they didn't need it, because the report may have had a bad visual or bad colors or whatever it was. But the important part was, and we've talked about this before, they were already acting in Dynamics. They were looking at their accounts. They were looking at the opportunities. So they didn't want to go out of that experience. They don't care. There was not a lot of interest in, you can spice it up, but I'm getting the information I need, how I need it right here, kind of thing. I don't care if I can click and drill through. So it's, when we talk about giving data to people, it's that big shift there too. And this is outside the fact, Mike, that Dynamics, up until we started being able to mirror in Fabric, was horrendous to try to do reporting in. Every table is 170 columns and does not bode well. You should have seen the old documentation. The old documentation on Microsoft for Power Query to connect to it. It wasn't just, here are the functions in Dynamics. It was, make sure you add this extra parameter in the code and, only do this. It was all these things to make it work. You're like, Microsoft, you own both these products. Make them work. Yeah. But
and I think, also to be very clear, the Dynamics product is a transactional system. It's a system where you go in, edit records of things. And that's why there's like these really wide tables that are not, this is the classic example of data is designed for what the app needs in order to do the work. It's not designed for the reporting needs on the other side, which means you're going to be picking up lots of columns. You need to join lots of tables together to get to the answers that you want. It's not simple and seamless here. And also, Tommy, I would argue as well, when Dynamics gets really large, a lot of times people have this expectation of, well, I updated the record in Dynamics. Why does that record not appear immediately inside Power BI? And Power BI is not good at the time, anyways, is what I'm recalling a little bit here. Yes. Power BI is not the best on having things like immediately funnel through and trickle through to the report side all the time. Because you had to refresh a lot of tables. You weren't able just to do incremental refreshes on certain records, and it takes a lot more design on the report side to have it refresh faster with only the records you care about. So that's just something else I think is interesting here, is this game between the transactional system and then the operational system, or the online analytical processing system. There's kind of two worlds in what you want to think about.
Right. And it's funny to go down that nerdy path because like Power BI is a columnar based system. So it does very well taking an individual column, treating it as a table, which
Yeah.
is the opposite of Dynamics.
And
So
Dynamics
there's
is a row-based system.
right, record based system. So,
Yeah.
and it's interesting that you're on Dynamics. Keep me updated on that because I'm going to be curious on two things on this path for you. I'm going to be curious on how much customization do you start doing, because out
Yep.
of the box is fine, but again, every business is different. And then where does because Microsoft's biggest push initially with AI was in the Power Platform.
Yes.
So I'm interested on where that becomes integrated in your process too with Dynamics in that journey.
I'll keep you in tabs, Tommy, on this because because when I look at the documentation as I'm reading up on the program, there's a lot of like AI based things, but more like, finding opportunities, writing letters to people. Like there's a lot of things that are just, yes, there's document feeding things like what are your products? How do you, so there's going to be a lot of things I think they're going to integrate there from the Dynamics AI side of things. I'll let you know because I'll play with it a bit more. It seems helpful, but again, I'm leery because if it's anything like, all the co-pilots that have been trying to Q&A my results on things, it's not really going to be helpful. So we'll take this with a grain of salt. We'll see what happens.
It's actually pretty good. It's like, why can't we have this much AI work in Power in Fabric? So I'm curious. Speaking of AI, what a segue, by the way. So you're welcome.
Speaking of AI,
yeah.
Yes,
so
exactly right.
What are we talking about today?
So today we're going to talk about data agents and your semantic models. So let's transition away from AI and Dynamics. Let's move over to what does a data agent look like inside your semantic model and how does that work? So there's a number of articles that Microsoft has been producing around this one. There is a single item, an actual product, workload, it's an issue if you want to call it that exists in the workspace called a data agent. And there's some concepts of it. There's how to create one. But let's unpack, like, what does this mean for organizations and how should we be thinking about what is a data agent and how does it work in relation to what we're doing in BI teams? So, Tommy, that's kind of where I'm going to start here.
Yeah.
Where do you want to take the conversation here?
There's some fundamental concepts here when we start with the data agent. And this is probably maybe our even fourth episode talking about data agents. But again, it's only available on an F2 or above. So this is not available on your...
Not the free capacity.
Not the free capacity. Not even the trial, I believe. No, you can't get this with
no trial.
No,
no
trial.
You have to have a dedicated Fabric capacity to run it.
Right. And simply what a data agent is, or really kind of taking the mold of AI agents, is simply allowing the conversational question and answer, again, chat based. So like your messaging, not just the Q&A feature that allows to ask questions plain English that are stored in one lake and receive content rich, accurate answers. Again, they say no technical expertise required. The conversation's there, I'm sure, but again,
I kind of agree with that.
Yeah,
I mean, generally that feels about right.
You're not doing code.
You're not wrunning code. I mean, you are talking to it like in natural language. Like to set one up, I would agree. Like, there's no code involved if you want.
Right. And yeah, the setup for the author, the creator, is all going to be statement based. So you're going to be writing, what you want it to tell, prompting. You're really doing prompt engineering. And again, how it works, it uses parsing and validating questions, and it queries tables based on the data source, which is very unique here. It's not simply taking, we're going to write everything in Python and then generate the query. That's how at Claude, ChatGPT, everything's written in Python if you want some analytical answers. This is based on the data source. So if I'm using SQL, like a table source in SQL, it's going to write a SQL query on the back end. If I'm using it, which I can also use not just raw tables, I can use what we'll be talking about today, semantic models. It's going to write NL2 DAX or a DAX statement to generate your answer and then to generate the summary.
Okay, you said NL2 DAX.
Natural language, yeah. So
okay. I just want to make sure you use the right terms because there's multiple engines that it's deciding on how to communicate.
So they've developed this where there's NL2, which is their second iteration.
Natural language to DAX, natural language to SQL, natural language to KQL, which is another query. So those are the three main databases they talk to are SQL, KQL, and semantic models.
Right.
And of the three, I would say, again, looking at like what Microsoft is doing and how you can train models, they definitely have been spending a lot of time. This feels like there's a lot of thoughts going on here. Let me just give a couple thoughts here.
Yeah.
they've been spending a lot of time on building these natural language processors to write queries that can then be used against different data sources. So it feels like the effort has been spent building these natural language translators. And when you think about the three different types we're talking about here, the one that's probably the most common is SQL. SQL is very known. There's a lot of it out there. You can train a lot on the SQL. DAX is pretty prevalent, but only in the Microsoft realm. So it's very specific to like our tools, the things that we do. And KQL, I think, also is very similar as well. It's a niche product. There's not a lot of training things that can be done on top of the KQL. So my argument would be here is like when you're going to a SQL data source, I found pretty good results, and the SQL that it was writing was pretty neat. Complex joins, it was understanding things, it was doing really well in the SQL side of things. However, the DAX and the KQL side, it did okay on the DAX. I think it did really good. I think they're definitely improving that, because why not? Because that's the same natural language to DAX you would need to run in other parts of the tool as well. So they have to make this better. But you can definitely tell there's not as much background knowledge or background training that's on these other two languages.
Right. And we'll do the last kind of bit of comparison here as well, because a lot of people may be asking, well, what about Copilot? Isn't Copilot a data agent? No. So these are separate entities. A Fabric data agent, is configurable with instructions. Copilot is pretty pre-configured. It's what you get out of the box. It's like you open up the box with the toy works. That's all you can do. This one is your open source. You can, update the motherboard. And Fabric Data Agent is standalone, but it's also cross-platform. I can use a data agent in Copilot Studio and allow it to work with Copilot Studio. Copilot Studio is not just, again, what's in Fabric. That's something that's a Microsoft product that works across all of your products, all of your systems, all of your content. So those are the biggest differences with a data agent, because the point that makes a data agent so impactful, Mike, is the instruction-based side of things, that you're writing a data agent with a specific task or tasks. It's rather than Copilot, where it's more of the Q&A. I may want a data agent to do something, again, a custom specific something. And this is where the data agent can really shine. And Mike, you've had a lot of experience. We've both had a lot of experience, but you've actually done these trainings already, these sessions, which is awesome. Yep. And from you building it, I'll start with you. What have you found as kind of, did you have any, oh, wow moments of like, hey, this is actually kind of neat in terms of the building side, not necessarily the user experience side?
There is a way of like adjusting how it talks to you. So, I mean, your instructions that you give it definitely do change the responses that are coming back from the large language model. So one time I was building an agent and I wanted to be more like, fun and energetic, and said, make your responses more lively and energetic, add puns and jokes into the responses that come out of the AI, just to be silly, like just to see what it would do. And it did it. I mean, it was actually responding with like, it would give you the answers that you needed, and then it would also like add a little quip or a little bit of like a pun on top of that. So that was fun to see the agent doing things. Those are like, if you think about what Q&A does, there's no ability for you to give it personality or something a bit more human side to it, because a lot of the Q&A just feels very straight laced. It's just, this product had this % change at this time, It just did a lot of readout of things. It wasn't more like someone wrote it, right? It wasn't conversational in nature. So for that regard, like the large language model did a better job on like letting it be feeling more human as you interacted with it. I think that'll get better over time. Imagine, Tommy, now I'm starting to see in other products even, right? When we start talking about what types of service desk things that are coming out of different experiences. Like, hey, there's now agents that are going to be like able to answer your phone call when people are not there. They'll pick up a call and then they'll talk to the person on the other line, schedule an appointment, schedule a demo, actually have someone like actually you tell it what you want it to do. And it's not like you're telling it step by step. I feel like when you call someone and you get like the automated voice messaging, right? It's just very canned, like, hi, what's your name?
Yeah,
And you say your name and they're like, thanks, Michael. Like
that's when I'm pounding 0 on my phone.
Right. I does the same thing. I'm like, give me a real person. Right. I think the experience is adjusting now. And with the advent of AI agents and the ability to like in real time get voice commands going through there, it sounds much more fluid. Like, hello, welcome. How can I help you today? Like it sounds more like a real person, and the voice side of things are much better. Even to the point now, Tommy, people are doing like take my voice or take the leader's voice or take the person who's running the business's voice, put that voice in the agent and have the agent on behalf of them talking to the customers. Hey, my name is, Robert, and I'm the owner of the business. How can I help you? Like something like that. And this is, hey, I'm a virtual agent for Robert. How can I help you? And so you can start making that much more interactive. So that's the part I think that is you're getting with data agents is this more conversational space around what the data is doing. Now, any aha moments? It did a good job making tables. It did a good job of like finding like specific questions. It wasn't really good at like interpreting the data. So if you asked it for like, where are some places where we are lacking sales? Like it could tell you where sales were down, but it wasn't doing a good job of saying, giving you reasons why the sales were down, right? Hey, I found 3 factors that might make sense as to why these sales were down in this certain region or on this product or whatever. It was more about asking factual data back to it. So it felt a lot more like general knowledge extraction from data sets is what it looked like right now initially. Yeah. I think that'll get better over time, but right now there's not a lot of like advanced analytics in there. It's not running like regression analysis. It's not able to like determine what other things are going on. So it really feels like that. And there's very little today. Again, I'm assuming this is going to change at some point. There's very little visual support. So you can get a table out. It'll give you some answers. That's basically as far as you can get. And maybe you can jump into like an explore feature where you explore the data. And from there you can build your own visuals on top of like, it gets you close to where you might need to be thinking about or looking at. But then it's up to you to kind of take it from there and keep building on top of it to potentially get down to the answer or insight that you're thinking about. I'll just pause there.
No, I have that's just so much to dive into. But quick side note, by the way, about talking to people on the phone, those automated messages. Yeah, I've never been more vulgar in my life than when I get a terrible automated messaging machine to try to get to someone. I've never been meaner to anyone in my life. When it is that system where it's just, they don't understand what you're saying. It's like, please say what you want. Like, I don't know. There's 1,800 things at this insurance company I can do. And then you say one thing's like, do you want to talk to sales? Like, no, I've never been more of just a mean person. Let's just put it that way. But you know what I'm trying to say with those messaging systems.
And maybe there is, maybe these agents have the ability to be able to detect sentiment or conversation. Yeah. Like these conversations should start off with like, there should be an innate read or measure on your voice and how you're talking to them. Cause it should say, okay, this person is now happy. This person's now frustrated. This person's now angry. Yeah. Like it should be able to interpret how I'm talking to it based on the words and the tone of my voice. And then from there, it should be able to realize like, okay, this is not helping. Like whatever I'm saying, I'm sorry for your frustration. I'll get you to an operator like that. Yeah. There's times when we know that needs to happen. And to your point, Tommy, you kind of get stuck in these loops of like, I just need to talk to someone and it won't let you.
The words I've called it, literally my wife's been upstairs and she just hears, get it together. And she's like, who are you talking to? I'm like, AI. So
yes,
totally. We got to get there. No, but let me actually get back because you made a very, very good point here about interpreting the data. And I think this is the kind of the crux of our conversation today. So there's a few articles that we have that will be in the podcast and will be in YouTube. There's one by Marco Russo as well that talks about the experience with LLMs, that there's no better consumption than the semantic model. The problem with large language models, or let's say the lack of large language models working with data, is the structure of the data. Again, these things just don't work out of the box. It needs to be fed a ton of information, and raw data, while can support it, needs to come with certain rules, or then it's just going to be a bunch of, to your kind of point, AI slop or AI data slop. And this is a very interesting point about the interpreting the data. I want to make 2 notes here. because we'll talk about this in the Microsoft thing. And then I think overall with AI, we talked about the languages, right? So if you take a large data set, a large raw table, a CSV, feed it to ChatGPT and ask it to explore, give me an analysis, it does everything in Python. So all the extracting the data, creating the data frame, I actually had some really cool experiences, and I'm trying to make it a session out of this, where I took the raw data and I said, I want you to develop metrics. This is what's important to me, but I want you to create your own metrics. I count this, and I look at the percent of, 3 out of 5, percent. That's what's important. Anything above 3 is important. Create a ton of metrics for me, that come out of this. And it did some amazing things that actually incorporated into a report that actually we developed with the client to say, hey, we're actually going to use these metrics when we look at it. And it changed what the report was. But that was all Python. So that's one note to say. Everything here, we're talking about DAX and SQL, which again, a data analysis expression language, but very different compared to the breadth of Python. The other point, raw data compared to the semantic model. There's an argument here, or there's a conversation here, I want to say. There's a current ongoing discussion in our community about the best data source in the Fabric world for data agents and AI in general.
Yes.
I have a few opinions here, but Marco Russo makes the argument, along with Rob Colley, who have been in the game for a long time, that semantic models are the preferred data source here.
Agree.
So we agree with that. So you agree with this?
I would 100% agree with that. Okay. Well, imagine. So that was one of the points I was going to make here. Is like, look, I really respect the words that come out of Marco Russo's mouth. He understands things at a level that I'll never understand things in the semantic model level. Also, Rob Colley was one of the original Power Pivot Pro individuals, and also started with like Power Query inside Excel. I mean, so I learned a lot from Rob around the Excel side of things and Power Query and data transformations. So between the two of those, there's a lot of industry knowledge there around them. And I trust their opinions. Like if they're saying this is the right way to go, this is the right way to go. Like I'm going to enforce what they're communicating because this makes sense to me as well. Even let's just unpack this a little bit, right? Inside the semantic model, we have tables, columns, definitions of every column by descriptions. Also, you have relationships between tables. And you could even communicate to the large language model. These are like the way you build your measures. Measures are also KPIs or aggregations that you expect to do on top of the data. So you've already spent like effort or time just by making the model and creating your measures inside the semantic model, even without documentation, like even without writing down where every column came from and what they mean. Just doing that building of the semantic model, you've already described a lot of additional data points to users. And so you're now leveraging that knowledge twice. You're leveraging it once for the users to build their own reports or you to build your reports on top of. And the second time you're leveraging it now is for the data agent. If you didn't have that, if you're going straight KQL and SQL, in those areas, you need to describe the same relationships. So when I was building data agents, I had one of the data sources that was like the SQL Analytics endpoint off of a lakehouse. Great. It was nice. But in there, I had, in order for it to build the proper connections between the tables, I had to go through and define this table is connected to this table. Here's the relationship. This is a one-to-many relationship. There's this side has the one, this side has the many. And so I had to feed the model that information. That way, when it was doing joins in the SQL, it understood what it was joining against. And again, going back to like, where does the metadata live for all these things? It lives in the semantic model. And you can use other tools like Unity Catalog or Snowflake. And now they just opened up the ability for you to like mirror those items into Fabric. And mirrored items will now be also a part of data agents as well, which is nice because you get a lot more data sources. But the downside of this now is, where does all that metadata come from? Where does the relationships come from inside those data sources? And that's, to me, that's where the custom instructions come from. Custom instructions solve that. And you can do, again, when you're building data agents, you can build up to 5 right now today, as of whatever today we're recording this thing. There are only 5 data sources you can make inside a data agent. So you can pick 5 different data sources, and that's it. in those 5 data sources, you can have like SQL databases. You can pre-prompt those data sources and add instructions specifically to SQL, but you cannot for the semantic model.
Mhm.
So there's even inside each data source, you can add custom instructions per data source to help further design and teach the large language model what's important in these different data sources.
So I'm going to add here. I don't want to go out and say I disagree with the statement, because I don't. However, there's some considerations here that I think just need to be part of the context of this conversation. Because obviously, Mike, with you, I'm not one to vehemently disagree with Marco Russo, Rob Colley, who are much smarter and have way more experience than I do. But let's also remember the game that we're playing here with LLM. So there's a claim here. I think the real statement here is there's no better structured data source for an LLM, large language model, than a Power BI semantic model. I would just change this topic because I would change that statement slightly. From my experience with AI modeling, is there's no better structured data source than a trained LLM for a Power BI semantic model. So here's the thing, though, and this is really important in this conversation, because like I said, I don't want to come across as, no, this is completely false. But let's also remember too, an LLM works based on certain data and in a certain way to get trained to do what it needs to do or what it's being tasked to do. Commonly, it's what we call vectored or really input output. This is the usual inputs that you'll get. This is the desired output that I get. Think even basic machine learning, right, Mike? Where it's like, hey, a cat, a picture of a cat, a picture of a cat, continue, whatever that case is. But this is also very true with prompting and a lot of models that are created on what you want it to task to do, especially with agents. Again, an agent is not what you think ChatGPT. It's a type of agent, but an agent has specific tasks that it's going to follow out for you, right? Compared to more the LLM, which is very broad, right? It will do a general everything. But when we talk about LLMs, like, someone's going to ask for data. Provide this is the expected or desired result. And that's many, many rows and many, many columns of that input output type of structure. Semantic models don't have that, but this is why it's really important when we talked about this, because I'm not saying go out of semantic models, because from a structured point of view for a user to ask queries, I'm honestly, to your point with the metadata, the already structured set of relationships, you're not going to find anything necessarily better, but that's only for something trained, right? And this is really an important distinction here when we're talking about when this conversation comes up. Even the data agents themselves, and this is my one problem with data agents right now, and in the experience that I have is, yes, you can customize it, but you can only customize it with a prompt, right? There's no weighting, there's no training of it. The only training is just conversational, right? It's still very user friendly, and I don't want to say we're missing the point here, but we're still very limited on allowing the data agent to do a lot what it could do. So I'm going to pause there, because I know, like I said, that I don't know if that's a hot take. I don't know how that's going to come across, but what's your take on that? What's the first reaction you have from this?
I mean, my first reaction is I remember a scene from Silicon Valley where one of the not that one, but those other ones as well. So this is one of the characters. I can't remember his name. Jin Yang, I think maybe was his name.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, and he was building again. This is like an incubator project. They're trying to build all these like software and app things. And this gentleman had built a Tommy's got the always blue ball that comes from the show. But he's building this AI app that's like getting a lot of traction, and it's basically he's building an AI app that says you feed it a picture and it's like hot dog, not hot dog.
Yeah.
And they're like, it only identifies hot dogs. Like that's it. He's like, yeah, it's not a hot dog. So it knows this is not a hot dog. So you just would feed it a bunch of pictures and he would just be hot dog, not hot dog, hot dog, not hot dog.
The first three, they're like hot dog. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. They're like, feed it something else, not hot dog. They're like, oh, you mean it's just hot dog, not hot dog? He's like, yes.
Yeah, that's exactly. So I mean, that's what I feel like some of these initial AI, like when you're talking about like the initial, versions of AI, that's what it feels like a little bit. So, it's definitely evolved more than that now. Like it's definitely better than those things. And The other thing I'm very optimistic or positive about is the speed in which this AI is changing, like how good it's becoming over time. So, what we're at right now today, I would imagine in a month or two from now, it's going to be drastically different, and it'll have a lot of other features or new improvements to it that we can then use and leverage, and it'll be much more usable in the future. So that's something that I think is just kind of in general, it's going to be changing so fast. Where I think I get hung up the most, Tommy, is I don't know what kind of instructions or what are good
really
instructions to give to it. So that's where it could probably do a lot better if I gave it better instructions, but I don't even know where to start with what are good instructions. So it almost feels like you need to have Microsoft provide you like, here are some good examples of starting instructions you may want to consider. And then you start from there, or even have the AI build itself to some degree. Like, hey, I'm going to point at this semantic model. The AI almost needs to have like a different, so this is where multiple large language models working together make more sense. And let me kind of unpack this for a bit here for a moment, Tommy, bear with me here while I kind of unwind the idea, right? The AI can be used to generate its own models, but it could be a different AI. There's different kinds of AIs out in the world. There's some that are deep thinking. There's some that are agent things. I'm doing something. I'm making something happen. We have this thing called MCPs now, which now lets you communicate directly to an agent in a large language model, and that can then use APIs and calls and do different things and get its own data that can then return results to the large language model to help it think about things. I feel like the idea here is the model that you use to build the agent is possibly different than the model that's actually used when you give it out to your customers. But it's going to help that first creator build the right instructions and say, here's some things that we would like to recommend to you. You've put a semantic model in here. I don't see a lot of descriptions in here. Do you want me to go create some descriptions for things? Yes. Here's the descriptions I think I'm going to apply to the semantic model. And then it basically would list out all the descriptions of things. And you can go in and modify them and say, yes, now this is good. Apply them back to the model. Where does this live inside the world of Tyndall? Like, how does that help us? Does it get us any more ability to build better things with the agents? So I feel like there's going to be like a Chat GPT 5 or like, a Claude Sonnet 4 that's going to be like helping you build the model. And then when they run it, they're just going to run like an open AI generalized model with really good instructions, right? So to me, this is where I think, me personally, is where it's a bit weak right now. There's not enough of the instruction side of things to help you build good instructions to make it really effective.
And this is such an important part, Mike, because we cannot miss the fact, semantic model or not, with data agents, especially data agents, is what we're doing is a skill, and let's recognize it for what it is. The prompting, the instructions. This is no different than learning DAX, and it should be treated that way. These things do not work if you just add some general questions. And I've said this before on the podcast, Mike, the next great coding language is English. And this is why. Okay. So this is a huge part of this is if you want to start using data agents effectively, you need to get better at prompt engineering, context engineering, the ability to prompt and instructions. You're not going to get away with just creating a data agent. And to your point, Mike, this is something that I'm finding lacking with the data agent. There's only 2 paragraphs in the Microsoft documentation about doing prompting and the querying here. And all it says is, you when you provide the AI with sample queries and question pairs, which I already just talked about, is kind of that initial data source of training it. Again, what I wanted to question, what I want to query. It references those examples as future questions, matching them to relevant examples. Power BI semantic models do not support adding sample query questions at this time. So, but for supported ones such as Lakehouse and Warehouse, again, still raw, you can, I know there's schema to Lakehouse, but that's not supported here. So semantic models are not supported here, which is a huge disadvantage for us to, I think, use semantic models effectively. The structure, I'm going to say this, the structure of the semantic model. Yeah.
I want to comment on that one. I think you're right to some degree, Tommy. I think there's like a portion of this that's like, if you can't write custom queries against the semantic model, but I also would argue, am I going to write better DAX than an AI will?
That's not. I don't
really know I mean, custom queries. We're talking like you're running DAX against the model. So I'd almost argue like, yes, like it makes sense that it's not supported right now but the other point here too is I'm building this agent. There needs to be a large amount of domain knowledge that comes with building these agents. Like you have to know what people are going to ask of the agent. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of these things I don't know what people are going to ask yet. And so I feel like there's a missing feedback loop here of, okay, we're going to build this agent. We're going to let it build something on top of a semantic model. Where's the funnel back to me, the developer of the agent, to understand what kinds of questions are people asking? Are those kinds of questions changing over time? Is there topics that are coming that are very apparent inside these things, right? When is Tommy swearing at the AI agent when it gives him an answer that he doesn't like? Like, again, back to this, like, which questions were responded to with frustration? What's the sentiment of this conversation as it happens over time? Those are the kind of things, right? It's almost like I need like Google Analytics on top of the conversations that are happening to the agent. And this can open up a whole bunch of other things, Tommy. Like this could be like, PII data. Where does the security go? Who can see these questions? They're going to be maybe asking questions that are like very like detailed to like, specific related things. You could have a model that's talking about commissions and you're having people chat to the commissions model about what they're doing and how their sales are looking, right? That's very secret data. And you don't want that just going out to anyone. Even the creator potentially might not be able to see that stuff. So there's a lot of implications here of like, how do you navigate that road to give the creator of the agent the right amount of information so they can keep improving it and making it better? And this is where I think, to your point, Tommy, going back to your statement here around semantic models and can't have custom queries, I think there's a large, that topic opens up to a bigger area of how do people use it?
Right.
What are they doing in it? And I don't know if I could technically answer that based on the information that's given to me today, the way data agents are rolled out.
And I want to make a quick note here. There is a few other documents around configuring a data agent that's around prompting. So I want to make sure I'm giving the due and I'm not short-sighting what's available. So there is
one that's called best practices for configuring your data agent.
Yeah.
Which is a lot more in depth, like do's and don't do things.
Right. But it's still high level, it's still top level. But your evaluation side, Mike.
Why isn't this document pushed into okay, I get it. This is what agents do, right? Take this document, pre-prompt the agent with this document and say, here's the best practices for building the agent. And there's an agent now to build the agent, right? And so it now has this documentation in front of it and it reads your things and says, evaluate. Hey, I see you added these things in here based on our best recommendations. We recommend you change the word slightly. Here, I've rewritten it for you to be better, right? That's what we want. I mean, I don't know. It's like going back to like when I learned SQL inside Access databases. Like it gave me like a UI that I could kind of just stumble around in, and eventually I started figuring out, oh, this is how a join looks. Oh, this is how you select things from a table. Oh, so the graphical nature of it made it easier for me to understand what was happening. In the same way, that's what should be happening here as well in the agents. Is it should be this, you're just going to throw some stuff at the wall, the agent will read it and then help you learn the better way to, because eventually we'll all get better at prompting. Like, Tommy, this is going to be our new world.
Yeah.
Our new world will be talking with agents.
People are they're not going to, I honestly think it's going to have a slower adoption for this to be a skill on my resume or on people's resumes. It's not like, again, for me personally for me, Mike, this is something the last 2 years since the concept of ChatGPT has been more widely available that I don't want to globe, but like, it's something I put a lot of time in, or is it something that's been important in terms of like, I've seen this as an important skill set. So take that as you want. Okay. So it doesn't mean I'm saying I'm an expert, but this is something that I take a lot of time.
Yeah, but I mean, Tommy, you also picked this up. I mean, how long have you been learning AI? I mean, we've been talking about agents things with you for at least a year. At least a year you've been playing with it heavily.
Right. And the important part from the experience is the prompting side, is this prompt engineering or context engineering side. And
I get it.
Yeah.
I'm saying like you started a year ago. The prompting you were doing a year ago is way different than what you prompt today.
Oh yeah. Well, because so this is Mike, I have one of those wouldn't it be nice type of things. Yeah.
Yes.
Here, if Microsoft, if you're listening, give me model choice. Okay. This is what I want. And then this will help you, Microsoft. Okay. Help me help you. Okay. This is what we should have, Mike. is I choose a data agent, but I can choose from various models. And Microsoft will find which models they like the most. Maybe I want I word the general one. Maybe I want the task-based model, however you want to put it. But let me at least choose, to your point, Mike, rather than giving me kind of a blank slate, which is like on the very base of the model where like feeding the AI and AI. Well, give me a few options there on more task-based ones, more general ones, see what people use, and then focus your agent around that. Because there are different types of models. It's not all of these things. There are different ways that these are. Anyways, Microsoft, if you're listening, call me. We'll talk about that. So,
but I think to your point though, Tommy, like the point I'm trying to make here is the way you prompted a year ago when you were just trying to figure this out is way different than what you're prompting now today. Also, what you were prompting in the beginning stages, the models have changed so much in a year that they're now more intelligent. You can set up different things. Both the model and you have grown together to a place where it's like you are more in sync with like what it does and how to get the results you expect or better results that come out. Where I'm going after this, and the idea here is there's a lot of people that are now just starting to figure out data agents for the first time. So we're stepping into the world here. Like, okay, they don't have a year of knowledge of prompting things. A lot of people are just starting now to interact with them. And so my point is, how could I take Tommy's 1 year of prompting knowledge and distill it down to something where I could, in a couple months or a couple of weeks, beat up someone who's new to get them to the same level of prompting that you would be using, Tommy? So like, I think what we're going to see here is because you started earlier than everyone else, you're going to have better knowledge. But now the models have also gotten better and more capable, and we know, right? So Tommy, the prompts you use to get the results is so important. It's pivotal to like making it really descriptive and a lot of details. That's why now we're starting to see, like, when you ask a prompt, like when you say a prompt, make this thing. It's now what is happening now is I think the AI agents are getting smarter. And it won't just do it. It will now ask, you said this one simple thing, make me a semantic model from this database. And it says, I think you said, here's what a semantic model is. Here's how I'm interpreting your question. Based on what you said, I've looked up the best practices for it. Here's a star schema. Here's the tables. Like, so what the agent is doing, it's like thinking on your question first, coming back to you with a very quick response that says, I think you want this. Is that what you want? Do you need me to refine the requirements? And then you're saying, you're adjusting the requirements and saying, yes, I want that, or no, that wasn't exactly what I wanted. Change it slightly and then go do the work. It's that kind of stuff that we never saw before. It was literally like, prompt, and then you just kind of keep speaking slightly until you got it right. Now the agents are thinking more on it, and they're getting better at asking you clarifying questions to make sure they get to the right answer. So it's not wasting a bunch of time on delivering a result you didn't need. Does that make sense?
Mike, this is a great point. Honestly, that's one of the best techniques too when it comes to prompting. Is your first prompt's not going to be great. One of the best one of the tidbits. The best prompt you can say at the end of any prompt that you do is ask me any questions. To get clarity. And it's kind of scary how it's like, actually, speaking, I know you want this, but since you asked me to, ask you to get clarity, it will give you these questions for you to answer, and then it'll give you the output. It's amazing what that difference will do. But to your point, there's all these concepts we got to learn here, and also kind of bring that back to the semantic model, Mike. This is kind of how I see where data agents and semantic models are, regardless of the prompting techniques that you do. If you were to choose, you look at your lake houses, look at your warehouse, look at the mirror databases, look at semantic models. The best highway system for data agents to work is the semantic model. It has the best structure. It has the best navigation. It has the best grid to get most efficiently. However, what we're missing still is the subway system, the transit and the cars on that subway. And that's the examples in the input output. If you look at the limitations right now with data agent semantic models, for me, and I hate saying this, is still kind of a deal breaker because it's not going to achieve the desired results consistently. And I'm emphasizing the operative word here is consistently, because it can deliver the right result. But one thing I found working with AI agents and working with these models is if the agent gives you the right output 3 out of 6 times, I'm not using it. And most people are not either, right? They expect these things to work when they use it, not half the time. And to me, so I need a better success rate. But that becomes with the things that are still limited right now with semantic models. Again, that being said, it's not the semantic model's fault, right? So this is very much with the data agents' limitations working with them. The best structure for AI is going to be a semantic model by far and away, because of the analytical metadata, because of the structure, because of the quality of that data, which is so important. The data agent's going to work the most effectively there. We are still at a point in this date and age and in September, October of the year 2025, where that is still a limitation here. But that doesn't mean that I can not feed it things. Mike, I worked with some local models, and I fed a semantic model, XML point, and it's incredible how well it can interpret that information compared to a raw CSV, because it's not. And the reason why, Mike, is it's not taking the raw data and then cleaning it up itself. It's already having that clean thing with the clear instructions. But again, right now, when we look at that relationship with a data agent and a semantic model, there are limitations on the data agent side, not the semantic model side, that are still making this a hard road to cross.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, I would agree with you, Tommy, that I still would argue that whether you're going to use a semantic model or not, right? If you're going to go to a data source that doesn't have the semantic model, you still need that language that describes how the data is related, what data is there. So either you're going to use the semantic model, which already has this like kind of, let's call it like proven business logic, right? It's proven because those relationships between the tables are already producing visuals and reports, right? It incorporates enough business logic to say these tables are related in these ways. We've aggregated this way. We've defined the business logic of like, this is how we communicate our data. That's why I think the semantic model makes so much sense here, is because it's taking that already existing business knowledge that's already prepackaged up. Now, can we do more things? Yes, we can. Can we use agents to help us document more of that? Yes, we can. How that all improves the performance of the agent. And so this is, again, I guess it's like a data engineering technique or data science technique where he says, bad data in, bad data out. Kind of one of those. So if you put junk in, you're going to get junk out. If you put junk, if you clean up the input information, better model, better data, more joins. Like if you give it more, if you do more work on the front side of things, the output becomes exponentially better on the other side. And this is one of the data science techniques, right? If you're trying to train a model or do some kind of AI prediction thing, you could tweak the algorithm all day long, and you could keep tuning performance here or there. But usually the largest gains you're going to get from that, and if you study the data science world, it's cleaner data coming in. Clean the data coming in, making sure that it's better. It's more in line with what's really representative of what you want to predict. And the more you clean the data and the more you get better data into the system, the better the results will be on the other side. And it's not just like a little bit of a bump. Like when you're tuning the model, you're getting minor improvements. It's like drastic improvements, large amounts of improvements. So this is the same, to me, this feels like the same thing, right? It's going to be another area where we're going to say, clean the data, make it better, produce better things around the data pieces. And that's going to continue to improve how good the agent is able to respond.
1,000%. And this is kind of be near my closing thought, but Mike, you had a Nintendo 64, right?
I did.
Okay. So the best way to think about this too, why the semantic model is the most efficient, not just what you said, is again, all these large language models are what you call token based. It takes, it only has so much context that it can provide, and then understand what it needs to do and then actually do it. And think about Zelda 64. Do you remember that?
I do remember that one. I
Raw
love
data. But remember, if you rented the game, you were like, okay, I hope this is one with a good saved, because all those Nintendo 64s was every cartridge had the saved data on it.
That's funny because I don't remember. I don't remember renting them. I probably bought the game, but I never rented
Right.
a game that had good save data on there. Because
Yeah.
that's interesting though, because then you're hoping it had like good,
Yeah,
like
you're like, I hope I'm far. I'm hoping I'm adult Link.
exactly right.
You know, but my buddy actually, he on the good ones, he would put a black, had a marker, and he would put a dash on it. So before he actually rented it for the weekend, not to waste his weekend, it's like, okay, this is one of the good ones.
Wow.
Raw data is the child Link, okay? Because you
Yeah.
have to build it up already once you get started with it. Because again, any
Mhm.
raw
Yep.
data, and
True.
even lake houses too, Mike, you're now tasking the data agent to go through the raw data and consume and use a lot of its tokens just to get
Mhm.
to a point where a semantic model already is. Semantic
Yeah.
model already has the horse. It already has all the arrows and all the features and power. So it can do
Mhm.
so much more. So that's this whole argument or this conversation that's again in the community right now. The reason why the semantic model is going to be that source is because all the groundwork is already in a sense condensed.
Mhm.
The model still needs to understand it, but it's condensed in terms of the rules, restrictions, etc., which is not something that has to do on its own with the raw model. And also what we can do with a semantic model: hide the columns, weight things, put the descriptions. To your mic, there's nothing that comes close um in terms of what is actually capable. And then also, I can't wait to see where the limitations are finally kind of overcome by Microsoft with data agents with and semantic model relationship, what a data agent's capabilities are going to be, because it's going to be extensive again.
Mhm.
So and I think that's kind of going to be my closing thought here is right now, to kind of go back to the initial question here is, do we agree with the statement, there's no better structured data source for a large language model than a semantic model? You better believe it. At this point in time, if you're listening, make sure you look at the limitations with that in the data agent to understand what's going to be capable or not. And also, my last part to what I think we've really emphasized here: learn prompt engineering, learn context engineering, get
Yeah.
good at it, because that is
Yeah.
you're not going to succeed without that.
I would agree with that one 100%, Tommy. And I also echo it's like I really feel like this is like a reflection, an inflection moment. This is a moment in time where things are substantially changing for the good, for the better.
Mm-hmm.
But this is an area where it's still new. It's still, I mean, every couple months I feel like I'm behind again because it's moving so fast. The agents are getting so much better. They're changing how they're working, and now it feels like the new trend is it's not just going to one agent. It's a matter of like orchestrating multiple agents together to do certain things. So what does that look like? For me, when I look at the agent side inside Fabric, let me just maybe my final thought here is I think it's an area to stay in tune with.
Mm-hmm.
I think organizations are going to like it. One thing I will caution here as well is agents are pretty intense when it comes to CU usage. So in the demos that I've done, in the times that I've done it, I'm the one person just building the agent. And I was on an F2 or an F4. And I saw a good amount of usage in the interactive side. So data agents, when you prompt them, when you talk to them, use a fair amount of consumption units, CUs. It is good for organizations because it will be able to search through things. It'll be able to like give context to what people are asking questions around. It definitely feels like a better medium, but I will also argue like, yes, it does this very well, but it just be careful with it, right?
Consider, yeah.
Right. That to me, that is where you just need to be considerate of the usage of that. And so what I would say right now, especially since this is newer out, if you're on exploring this or figuring this out, I would recommend getting a smaller dedicated capacity to do your testing on this. I would not put this on the same capacity that is your production. I would do some testing on the side, seeing how agents work, because I think that will give you some context to how much prompting can be used in order to leverage these agents. So that's just my initial opinion. I think this is going to be, in general, I'm going to stand back and look at what's going on inside data agents and what's happening here. I'm very optimistic. I think this is going to be super useful. I think this is a way bigger improvement over just Q&A stuff on top of visuals. I wish there was a bit more visual-based pieces to this where I could ask a couple questions, get a table of data, tell it to visualize this in a chart, and then go from there to like a report. Or, to me, a lot of this is what now? what's next, right? Can the agent go to the semantic model, grab a couple tables, pull a query together, and then pull it to analyze in Excel? Can we do that?
Ooh.
Right now, it doesn't appear to be happening, right? So there's a couple, like there's a story of like talk to the agent, get to a certain point with the information and the data, and then what? There's a
Right.
what action is being done? Do we push that into a report? Do we push that out to Excel? Do we push it to an export? What is the right next step that goes on from there? And how do you save that information? Once you get to an answer, once you get to some sort of analysis, where does that go? So that, to me, I think that's the next evolution of where data agents are going to be. Yes, it's going to help you dig through your data and let you see it. But then there's the story of what next? Where do we go from here? So all that being said, I think we've burned through a perfectly good hour here of your time. I hope you enjoy our conversation around data agents. Tommy and I have been actively exploring them and using them and doing demonstrations around data agents. I think they're very interesting, very powerful. But there's still a lot more to be developed inside them to make it super more effective for your organization. So I'm optimistic. I think this is one of the better features that they've released that I feel like I'm optimistic that it's going to go well. Anyways, that being said, if you like the podcast, if you like this episode, please, if you wouldn't mind, consider subscribing. Members of this video or members of our channel get all these videos as they are produced. So this is a pre-recorded episode. You'll get it as soon as you have it, as soon as we record. So I want to put it up on the YouTube channel. It'll be there right away. We're also going to be doing more YouTube instructional pieces as well. Tommy and myself are going to do a bit more of this as well. So you probably also become a member because that will get you direct access to our chat in more learning sessions that we're going to be doing in the future here as well. That being said, Tommy, where else can you find the podcast?
You can find us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to subscribe and leave a rating, and it helps us out a ton. And to Mike's point, share with a friend. We really do this for free. Do you have a question, idea, or topic that you want us to talk about? Maybe you've had experience with data agents or you want to learn more about it. Head over to powerbi.tips/podcast. Leave your name and a great question. And finally, join us live every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:30 a.m. Central, and join the conversation on all of powerbi.tips social media channels.
Awesome. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.